The reason you and really our entire humanity feels lost right now is because nobody knows who they really are, like existentially. You can tell me your name and what you've studied. You can tell me what country you come from and what hobbies you have. You can even go a bit deeper and tell me the fights that you've had with your significant other, or the existential terrors you've gone through in your life. You could tell me really everything about yourself. But deep down, we both know that none of this is really you, isn't it? Any description you give me of yourself or your life will always be just that, a description. Where you are isn't so clear. And this becomes even more dreadful because you can even live with a person for years, truly love them, spend thousands of hours with them, and suddenly figure out that they never actually knew you. They only knew a concept of you, a concept that they used to love and now have learned to resent. It's like whatever you were is dead, eroded over time as your personalities clashed against each other, and now there's just nothing left. This happens with almost all relationships. Like most people end this way. And this is why breakups hurt so much. Because they're not just really about the other person, they're about our own identity, about a part of us who we thought we'd understand, a part of us we thought we knew, that suddenly just disappeared. So it becomes an existential pain. And this is why breakups hurt so much. Like when we stop interacting with somebody, this feeling is so painful. And we don't really talk about how brutal it is. Like it gets kind of dramatized and romanticized in like movies and stuff. But the personal feeling of breaking up with somebody feels like somebody's dying. Because you're actually not breaking up with another person. You're breaking up with yourself. You are confronted with the changing nature of what life is like, what existence is like. And then you figure out that you really didn't know yourself, or you didn't knew yourself like you thought you did. And your partner's at the same position. So if words can't define us, and if even long-term relationships just end up in nothing, how can we actually know ourselves? So this video will get quite philosophical, but there's really only one way to find yourself. So let's get deeper into this. Deep introspection quickly becomes scary, because it becomes evident that other people never see you. You are a ghost. Everybody only sees your shell, your human body, your face, your weird personality quirks, the way you look, how you sound like. It's like people see everything we don't really feel that identified with, at least not when alone by ourselves. And you really don't know how you like are being perceived as, how you look or how you like speak until you record yourself. And that's why when people start to record themselves for the first time, the immediate reaction is like, this is how I sound like? This is really how I look? Weird. When we are not used to seeing ourselves from like a third person perspective, it is quite startling. Because we don't really know how our other people perceive us as. Like it's like we are actually a different version in the relationship to ourselves and in the relationship to other people. So everybody just really identifies us with our bodies on a very superficial level, but a deeper self doesn't. So there the confusion already begins. I remember when I was very young, like when I was 8 years old, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and finding it very disassociating. It's like I couldn't believe that this is really how I look like. Why do I have to look like this? It becomes like clear how most aspects of yourself have not been chosen at all. It's like before your birth, you've just entered the character creator and just hit the random generation button. And now you're just like, why? What? Why did I do this? And yeah, so if I remember, like, I think about my childhood, I even remember back then, it's like I knew I wasn't really my body. And the older I got, the more alone I felt. When I was like 12 to 15 years old, it really was the worst time. I felt constantly misunderstood by everybody and everything. Like, nobody could understand how I think, and I couldn't really communicate well to anybody because I didn't really understand how I think. So, yeah, I felt very, very weird. Always hiding in some corner at school and, yeah, just being extremely, not just introverted, but also, I guess, fake. And today I know that these thoughts were deeper than just simply a personal dislike of myself, although at this time it just feels like I don't like myself. It's like we really want to merge with other people, to be seen truly for what we are, because we ourselves can't do it. We can't stand to look at ourselves. So we need other people to find us for us. Like, please, somebody, show me that I can be understood, that I'm not too weird to be loved, and that it's okay to be my unique self. So yeah, so we all just really want love and validation. That's what everybody seeks. And it's quite paradoxical because you are seeking the acceptance of other people to validate what you already are. It's like we are certain that we on our own can't be enough. Our own perception of ourselves is filled with uncertainty and doubt, as we can't be certain if we truly deserve to live, as if we are not so sure if we are actually valuable enough to justify our own existence. So we become dependent on other people. We become what other people perceive us to be. Other people tell you that you're ugly, and then suddenly you start to feel ugly. And when other people tell you you're beautiful, maybe you believe it, but equally likely that you need even more perspectives now to validate that, because this cannot be. Like an endless desire to fill up your own sense of emptiness. That's how social media companies fuel this desire for attention. How almost every single ad you can find out there is about looking better for other people. All about the projection of ego, showing that look how worthy I am, look how cool I look like. How to be the alpha sigma male or Germany's next top model. It's not just validation, it's like a need to be seen. As if we don't exist if nobody is looking. But if people start to look at you long enough, you start to see that they are still just looking at a superficial shell. You're just a concept to other people. You're nothing at all. But let's be real about what is driving all of this stuff. Like this endless cycle of feeling lonely. Because all this seeking for fulfillment, all this desire to find yourself, all this desperate need for validation points to an even deeper question. Who is looking for yourself? What is this thing that is looking for validation? If it is possible to find yourself, how can you be lost? So there's an inherent paradox here when you are trying to find yourself. And I hate to break it to you, but the answer is that you're literally nobody. There's no center in your experience that can look at itself. You imagine that there's someone there that could even be looked at. But it's impossible. You quite literally don't exist. Not as a unique entity, not as one thing that can actually be pointed to. What you're wishing for is for your eyes to see themselves, or for a mirror to see its own reflection, or a light to shine on itself, or for water to notice its own wetness. Your nature, as a human existing in this world, is that you have no nature. There's nothing fundamental about you that can't change. Because all you're doing is changing. But what I just said isn't just words or some spiritual talk for just the sake of it. It is the thing that you're looking for. And I mean this all quite literally. It's the thing that will set you free if you truly understand it. Because existence is a giant paradox. And you are that paradox. Because you exist. You are embedded in what is happening, not just as a human. Of course you're looking for validation. Of course you're trying to be seen by another person. Because that's exactly what existence is doing all the time. to be seen and understood. And as your human self, of course it's failing, because the only thing that can look at itself doesn't exist. It doesn't exist as a unique, like singly definable entity. And I want to stress, and I probably will do this a lot of time during this video, I can stress to you how literal I mean this paradox. There's nothing looking at itself. That's who you are. But this feels almost too simple, right? Like it's like saying whatever you're experiencing right now is just who you are. Like you're just this moment. And if who you are is just what you are right now, it feels quite unsatisfying. Like we want something deeper to hold on to, some ultimate truth that will finally make everything click. And here's the even stranger part. This deeper truth that you're looking for, it does exist. But it's trapped in this paradox. As long as you desperately search for it, you'll miss it. But if you stop searching entirely and act as if you understand, you'll remain lost in illusion of a separate self. It's like trying to catch your own shadow, right? Like the harder you run, the faster it runs away from you. Or it's also like self-love. As long as you question if you really love yourself, you don't love yourself. Or acceptance, like, am I accepting this? Well, if you ask the question, reality is a paradox that keeps folding back on itself. And you being that paradox, well, you want to know yourself, and then you'll understand the paradox. And I will stretch it again. What I'm going to say, I mean it literally. This is not a conceptual framework for you to hold on to. I'm saying what reality is like. Knowing itself is something that not just humans do. It's what reality does. Think about, for example, when you burn your finger. In the moment that it is happening, there's no questioning about what's happening. The sensation that you're feeling burned, or like the sensation of burning itself, doesn't need to be validated. It doesn't need to be verified. You're not going to somebody and ask them like, hey, is my finger burning right now? Am I in pain? Is this suffering? It just simply is. The pain knows itself completely. The same is true for when you fall in love. Like this feeling in your chest, this desire, it's undeniably real in the moment it happens. Not as a thought or an idea, but as just pure experience. Even something as simple as feeling water run down your head when you take a shower, all of these sensations are reality directly knowing themselves. They aren't just random experiences happening to someone. They are reality experiencing itself through you, through your senses, through your being. There's no interpretation needed because the sensation of how it feels like is what it is. The content and the context are the same. Like there's no depth, there's no distance between anything. And you can find yourself because there's nowhere to look. Like you're looking for depth or distance in things that just shows itself exactly how it is all the time. Everywhere you look is just being. In the moment of experience, there's just nothing beyond it. It's like direct contact with reality every second, every second. Each sensation knows exactly where it is and what it does. You can cling to it and you can't really talk about it because the talking about it changes it. Like when I say you're burning your finger, is like the actual experience of it and me talking about it have nothing to do with each other. They're just pointing to it. It's in the moment sensations clash in on you that truth is clashing in on itself. The illusion that it is happening to you, it's the you that doesn't exist. But the sensations are real. The experience is reality. And I know this all is really weird to say, right? Like it sounds kind of crazy. But it's what all philosophy, all religions, all science points to. This is what self-realization wants. to be. But it's always the description that is wrong and the lived reality that is real. No self means that you are reality experiencing itself with all its different shapes and forms and all this infinite ways manifests. And you can, in each moment, see how direct it is. You're not just imagining reality or just dreaming reality. You are in direct contact with it. Your brain is in direct contact with physical reality. There's no distance. The idea that the human brain just simulates stuff and then there's like a real reality that we humans don't have access to. Like there's, of course, kind of truth to it. There are like optical illusions exist. But in the perception of the optical illusion, there is a truth that reveals itself. This can become quite obvious when you experience an ego death. When there's no sense of separate self, there's no conceptual construct to deny what's happening. This is also very obvious through certain states of meditation, depersonalization, or you can also directly access this, like right now, with simple introspection. And it's thinking about it, this like talking about it, that for most people just causes all of this confusion in philosophy, like this philosophizing that creates like some difference between you and reality. But who you really are doesn't care about ideas. It doesn't care about your beliefs or concepts and philosophical abstractions. Yes, they guide your life and the decisions that you make, but reality is something that simply is. And you're wishing it was different, you're wishing that you could control it, you're wishing that you were different, is what causes this feeling of being lost. To find yourself, you need to lose yourself completely. You only feel lost because you are holding on to a concept that doesn't exist. Because it hurts to let go of this concept. It hurts to actually lose yourself. Let me give you a practical thought experiment to let go of these concepts. It's kind of what we've been doing this entire video, but let's call it a short meditation. You don't need to close your eyes, but you're welcome to do so. It makes it a bit more effective. Be aware how you are experiencing this moment. You are in the present. This is how it feels like to be in the present. Catch that. Sense it. You know what it's like to be here? It's real. You're alive. Okay. Now try to think of a nice memory of the past. It literally doesn't matter what it is. Just a memory. Try to bring it to your mind's eye. Now notice how your mind projects this memory into this moment. The memory becomes real. You are experiencing a construction of the past in this moment. Really focus on the sensation of being here in the presence of the now, holding a memory. You can see how your memory and you here now have nothing to do with each other. They're completely different things. Your memory becomes a concept, like a very poor reconstruction, and it kind of separates you from being here. And at the same time, you right now become it. You create a mental overlay in your mind that infects this moment. And then it becomes real, like some sort of idea of a past that exists. But now again, move into the present and let go of this memory. Forget about it. And be here like you were at the beginning. Was this memory real? Okay, so that's the end of this little experiment. The trippy thing is that what we just did is happening every single second. You're always imagining and reconstructing a past into the present, and then you believe it's real, when it's not. And then you construct a sense of identity that isn't in the present, that is somewhere in between. When I snip my finger, and the moment that the sound stops, you still have an echo in your head that remembers the sound. it is as if it is still happening, even you've actually stopped hearing it. Like the memory in of itself keeps happening, even if you're not hearing it anymore. It's like a mental echo of a memory. And this is what you're doing with every sensation of your being. There's no sensation that is happening just in the present, because you are rarefying the present as something that exists more than just moment to moment, as if like 5 seconds ago is still happening, when it can't be. So where you are located in time and space is a very, very, very short moment in time. It's like you have a flickering pattern of sensation that is so short, but still happening so quick. It's impossible to get hold of. It's like nothing and everything at the same time. Always. You could also say it's everything, everywhere, all at once. Really love that movie. You should watch it if you haven't. So why am I saying all of this? What was the point of this video or this experiment? Well, it's in the noticing of the present moment where you actually find yourself. Not as some abstract thought, not as an abstract idea, but in the exploration of what reality is actually like. In the exploration of how you actually are, how you actually function, how reality is actually projecting this illusion of a separate self each moment. In this exploration, you will find truth beyond philosophy, beyond concepts. A lot of spiritual traditions will dumb this down and just will simply tell you, just be here now. Accept everything just how it is. And yes, they're right. Like, this is true. But I personally never found this very useful. Like, my intellectual mind wanted always a deeper understanding. And this is why I, experience, but then also like to intellectualize it, to get some deeper understanding into the nature of reality with words, as it is also very helpful. And if you consider yourself like a deep thinker, like it probably helps you too to intellectualize afterwards and to think and reflect about these experiences more than just like the sensations in of themselves. But with the important realization that thoughts and ideas are secondary. First comes always experience, and then what you make out of this experience with words is kind of like this identity creation thing happening. Not always, but very often. Which these thoughts that intellectualize all of this experience, it's like still like a sensation, right? It's just another form of experience happening. But we humans usually get lost in their content, like in the meaning of the ideas that these words carry. And then we forget that it's all about sensations. That's why meditation is supposed to stop make you thinking, or that's like at least the idea or the cliché of it, right? Like you don't want to think because you're supposed to be in the experience of it to actually investigate the nature of reality. And if you're able to like think, but understand that thoughts come secondary, well, then you stop having this thought as an overlay you can see through. You understand that all your ideas and concepts and beliefs will always kind of like be a barrier between you and direct contact with yourself. Another thing that separates you from just reality is just like, these thoughts that we create and these mental overlays that we create. And then you can't find yourself because reality is who you are. It's the same problem we had at the beginning, right? Like we can talk about who we are all day long, but they're never the same thing as being it. The same way I can tell you the deepest truth about the universe, right? Look what I've discovered about your nature. I can tell you are God, you are the universe, you're nobody at all, you are reality, and I will. I love talking about this, right? It's not that I will stop doing this, but I love intellectualizing. It's just so important that it's not the only way you learn and that you understand that the actual true nature of yourself is in the experience. All what we're doing right now is like a finger pointing to who you are. But the pointing is not you. And despite how literally true all of this is, you can see for yourself that this is only something to be recognized, right? It's not something that is to be talked about. Because of course, who could find yourself if it is not you? You're the only one who lives with yourself in your own little floating head, hovering over this infinite labyrinth that is existence. Float for long enough and you see you were the labyrinth all along. The reason we look for validation in others is because we can't believe it. It's just too incredible. It's too insane to believe. We can see that our own nature is fully self-validating, fully self-sufficient. The fact that reality accepts itself fully, exactly how it is, is too brutal for our own egos to accept. We need to act as if we are something else, something different, something that needs to control reality to prove its worth. Because the acceptance of reality is just too much to bear, because it's so unconditional. It's like we are literally empty inside, and we try to fill each other up with even more emptiness. And the really paradoxical thing is that once the emptiness is seen through, all there is becomes full. That's what's finding yourself. That's what finding yourself is like. Of course, there are levels to it and deeper levels of understanding, but there comes a point where you know who you are, and then the seeking stops. And there's no option to question it anymore. It becomes almost impossible to not accept something, as literally everything that is inevitable and becomes quite obvious. Am I constantly in this space? Well, I don't think I'm enlightened, as I too have an ego, but I have seen through the sense of self. And since then, I have truly eliminated most of my suffering that I used to feel. Like I used to suffer existentially so much. And now there are like fluctuations in this like weird sense of non-dual awareness. But there's like a certain beauty that now is always constant. It's like I can see myself clearly now. And I can see how evident it is that reality is playing with itself all the time. It's like infinite potential and creativity just showing itself in each moment. But that's true for everything and everybody. Like, I'm not special. I love being valued. I love sharing useful things. So if you like and subscribe, it does really fill me with joy. And I do really appreciate being appreciated. I care about what other people think of me. It's a lot of fun for me to see different reflections of myself, to read comments about the ideas that I've shared. But the fun comes from seeing myself from different perspectives. It's not about seeking validation anymore. Every interaction is a different aspect of reality just clashing in on itself, without judging one as inherently worse or better. This clashing of perspectives is what reality is really doing. And reality doesn't judge. That's why we might feel things are like very awful or nihilistic, because there's no ultimate right or wrong. God loves unconditionally. Your attention is what sucks everything into itself from its environment and then shapes itself into this present moment experience. And the clearer you see yourself, the easier this perception just flows without any resistances. And without resistance, suffering diminishes and everything becomes more fun. It's just like this childlike happiness where you just can appreciate little things. It's like, imagine a kid playing with Legos. Like when I used to play with Legos, it never really occurred to me to question like my existence or my death. Like I was just in the moment enjoying myself. And the more you go into like spirituality and actually dissolve the sense of self, this is what reappears. It's just this pure loving and like acceptance or like appreciation for like literally anything. Just pure curiosity manifested. So yeah, through see all of this ego that has been constructed throughout your lifetime, it really helps to have people to talk to in a community to push each other. So I have my Existential Pathfinder Discord community that you can find in the link below. We guide each other and yeah, just join. Like I'm truly trying to build something quite meaningful there. And if you want to figure out why smart people can't be happy, click here next.